I don't think it's a stretch to say that the last week for NASCAR has been a total fucking embarrassment. Let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to today's edition of the fuel. Coming a little bit late because I haven't been feeling all that good, but we're getting to it now. Or today, this is the review for the 2020 Auto Club 400. But to be perfectly honest, the review is probably going to take a back seat to all the stupid bullshit that happened in the last week or so, because between NASCAR fans being their usual dipshit selves and the NASCAR media being a bunch of salty motherfuckers, the last week in terms of NASCAR content and all that other shit has been a fucking embarrassment. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous what's been going on in social media as far as NASCAR is concerned, the last week. What else am I supposed to say about it? When I just sit back and I just watch in just utter disbelief at the utter stupidity of NASCAR beat reporters and, the fans in general, the fan base in general. Has everybody just lost their fucking mind around here? Or am I the only sane one left? Because, fucking NASCAR beat reporters are, trying to wage a war on NASCAR YouTubers for no fucking reason, which I'll be getting to that. And then of course you have the NASCAR fan base being pissy as usual for basically no fucking reason. That they're mad at a certain change that NASCAR is going to be doing next year, and to me it's just like, you're getting mad over nothing. It's fake outrage. It's stupid fucking bullshit. And it's not like the race was, anything interesting, or there was anything of note anyways. It was an okayish race, but it wasn't anything to write home about. And honestly, I don't think it really would have mattered. It was going to take a back seat to all this stupid bullshit that's been going on anyways. But before we get into all that, let's dive into the news of the week. Alright, some positive news. It seems like for Fernando Alonso, all roads to the Indianapolis 500 lead back to McLaren. He had been in talks with Michael Andretti and Andretti Autosport about possibly getting a sixth entry for the Indianapolis 500, which I think Andretti would have done, but he decided to go with Arrow McLaren Schmidt-Peterson because it would just go to a three-car team, and he thinks that it might be more balanced between the three. And from what we could tell, let's be honest here, Schmidt-Peterson is certainly a very capable team, and now they have Fernando Alonso on board, keeping the number 66 for this year's Indianapolis 500. So, and he's also hinted at maybe doing some other races besides the Indianapolis 500 in IndyCar, which would be pretty interesting. But needless to say, after it seemed like he wasn't going to be able to get a ride for the 500, now he has one, of course, with McLaren. And even though his contract as a team ambassador with them expired at the end of last year, they left it on pretty amicable terms. There wasn't really any hard feelings or anything like that. So, of course, with his ties to McLaren. He basically talked with Schmidt Peterson Racing, and they said, yeah, let's do it. So the Fred watch has been upgraded to a warning, and the shot at the Triple Crown of Motorsport is still alive and will live once again in 2020. May the 24th, that's when the Indianapolis 500 this year will take place. A little more than 2.5 months away. Can't wait. NASCAR news. Angela Ruck, formerly known as Angela Cope, for those of you that don't know, apparently had quite the tirade on Twitter during this past weekend. Or actually, it was it was on the 25th, so it was this past week, I think. Parker Kligerman, it was either this past week or a couple weeks ago, I can't really remember, but it's still worth noting. Parker Kligerman, after Angela Ruck went spinning off a pit road, Parker Kligerman was like, let's raise the qualification standards for the top 3 series. Side note, I can't wait till a woman driver absolutely laps the field one day. Truly, we are the only sport men and women can compete on equal grounds. Can't wait till super talented women are throughout the field. And then Angela Ruck basically was like, dipshit, I blew a tire. The difference between me and you, little B and bunch of $ signs and signs, is I make my own path. In fact, if you do not shut your trap, I will slap your little ass. Sad little fellas that no one dated in high school. Okay then. And then she tried to do a follow-up tweet that said, wow, where do I start? Obviously a tweet was sent from my account last night that's caused a bit of a stir. Truth is, my husband Mike responded from my phone. He was pretty upset with the comment from Parker. I probably would have handled it a bit different. Lol, but I love the support. Yeah, I don't buy that shit. Not to mention that you threw your husband under the bus. So, yeah. Don't believe that for a second. Back to IndyCar for a second. James Hinchcliffe, who was left without a ride for 2020, he will be joining NBC Sports for 10 IndyCar races as an analyst, which I think is pretty cool. He is scheduled to drive 3 races this year, I believe, for Andretti. I can't quite remember which ones those are off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty cool that he's going to be an analyst for NBC Sports, even though I prefer him to be behind the wheel, to be honest. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table as far as being an analyst goes. I mean, that might be something that he'd be interested in doing after he hangs the helmet up for good. So that'll be interesting to see. One second. All right, back to NASCAR. The new single lug nut. They're finally going to a single lug nut starting in 2021 as part of the next gen package that goes with the next gen car. As you might have guessed, this is one of the things that has caused quite a stir in NASCAR Twitter and social media. And there's been a lot of really unnecessary fake outrage, which is kind of ridiculous. We'll get to that when we get to it. But basically, the only changes for this are it's a single lug nut. They're going to change from steel wheels to I think it's 15-inch steel wheels to 18-inch aluminum wheels. Pit crews still move from right to left. Crew members over the wall remain the same. So there was a debate going on as to whether or not this is going to be like IndyCar. No. They may be going to single lug nuts, but they still got to jack the car up on one side at a time. It's not like IndyCar. We can jack the whole car up and you can change all 4 tires at once. You still can't do that with these heavy-ass stock cars. I mean, to my knowledge, they haven't invented a jack yet that can lift the whole frickin' car up into the air. Basically 2 tons worth of steel and metal, that they gotta lift up into the air, and I don't think they've invented a jack to do that yet. At least not, ones that NASCAR uses. Pit crews still move left to right, crew members still go over the wall. But what's eliminated from this is post-race lug checks and penalties, which I absolutely love. Because I get so sick and tired of lug nut penalties and them being assessed to the crew chief, which I always thought was fucking stupid to begin with, because it's like, why is the crew chief being penalized for it when it's the tire changer's job to make sure they're tight? That never made any sense to me. But they're eliminating lug checks and penalties. And you might say, well, what would that... I mean, would they try to leave them loose then? No. I don't think they would, because with 5 lugs, you could leave 1, maybe 2 loose to shave some time off a pit stop. You try to do that with one of these single lug nuts, because, if you leave a single lug nut loose, the law of NASCAR is not going to penalize you. The law of physics will. And the law of physics is unbiased and unbeholden to any team. That's why I love it. So, but yeah, this caused quite a stir on NASCAR social media, which I'm going to be getting to that when I get to it. But speaking of NASCAR media, one of the things that was that caused quite a stir was a question from a guy by the name of Mark Anthony DeBello after the Las Vegas race. Apparently he represents DeBello Production Company. I guess that's his own company. And last year he actually asked Joey a question after he won last year's Las Vegas race, the spring race, about NASCAR maybe going to 4 stages, which they did consider it, but I mean, that's obviously, I don't think, a good idea. And then he just and then this year he asks a much weirder question. He was basically like, Joey, there's talk out there about a 10-year plan with NASCAR November, Charlotte for the Hall of Fame here, obviously because it's the gambling capital, and congratulations, you were 5-1 to win this race, and the final race of the Week Championship Series in Daytona, with the cool part being that the Cup Championship winner gets to be the pole sitter for the race in February, the Daytona 500. Your thoughts about that long term? Yeah, that's a pretty discombobulated question. And Joey Logano was like, whoa, that's all news to me. Has anyone else heard this rumor before? That's news to everybody, to anybody? I believe some of that may be a conspiracy theory. And this whole thing basically started, this was basically the trigger for the whole war between the NASCAR beat reporters and NASCAR YouTubers, which happened for some weird reason, because apparently a lot of people thought, well, this is a YouTuber. I've never heard of this guy. So, I don't know. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. But, 1 second here. Oh, yeah. In response to Kyle Busch basically winning his last 7 truck starts dating back to 2018, a bounty has been placed on Kyle Busch. Kevin Harvick said, I like this, so let's make this fun. I'll put up a $50,000 bounty for any full-time Cup driver who races a truck and can beat Kyle Busch in his next 4 races. And apparently Marcus Lemonis, I guess is host of The Prophet, he's basically putting up a $50,000 bonus as well. So whoever can beat Kyle Busch in the Truck Series gets an extra $100,000 from Kevin Harvick and from Marcus Lemonis. I mean, that's not exactly chump change. And Kyle, even though he was a bit annoyed with it, basically was like, okay, challenge accepted. So that's pretty interesting. And then one last thing, and this has to do with a NASCAR media site that's been doing some pretty nefarious things. TobyChristie.com basically did an interview with Joseph Lombard, who was actually an employee with Motor Racing Insider. So evidently, I think it was during the Las Vegas weekend, that they were accused of plagiarism. And in response to that, they started deleting pretty much all of their articles on their website. They've scrubbed all of their videos from their YouTube channel, and they even shut down their Twitter account and basically left Joseph Lombard, who's a NASCAR tuber of over 60,000 subscribers, basically left him to the wolves. So Toby Christie of TobyChristie.com basically did an interview with them, and he basically says, so however you it's NASCAR, but he replaces the A's with a 2 and a 4, which is Joseph Lombard. So Joseph Lombard is telling me that he was not hired to do any writing for MRI, Motor Racing Insider. So basically, what was happening was, since he was an official employee of Motor Racing Insider at the time, he's since left the company. He was basically being accused of plagiarism along with everybody else. But the thing is, he was not hired to do any writing for Motor Racing Insider. He was hired to do video content, video interviews, and stuff like that. So he had nothing to do with the plagiarism bullshit that was going on the website. And he was upset that the content he produced wasn't being added to MRI's site or social. He says the guy who calls himself Steve in the MRI YouTube videos is actually Michael the Kid Stewart, the man who hired him. Stewart is apparently a former member of the band Motorgrader, according to Wikipedia. It appears that Lombard was duped into working for what he felt was a legitimate news outlet when that turned out to be false. I'm gutted for that guy, as he seems genuine in the chat I just had with him. On the Motorgrader Wikipedia page, they list a member of Michael the Kid Stewart coming into the band in 2013 and 14. The FB profile Lombard shared of Michael Stewart had his previous profession as being with the band Motorgrader. As a new layer to this onion, the Motor Racing Insider YouTube account has scrubbed all of its previous video posts, including ones with Steve, aka Michael the Kid Stewart, yet the website is still standing for now. So yeah, not exactly a great situation for Joseph Lombard to be put in, and there have been a couple of people who basically hate his guts that have basically taken advantage of the situation to basically, attack him with reckless abandon. And that shit I will be getting to here in a second. But yeah, pretty shitty situation. A news outlet that was basically plagiarizing other people's work. And plagiarism in journalism is basically a cardinal sin. Stealing someone else's work is a big no-no, and it'll basically tell everybody to never trust you ever again in terms of journalism. And if you're basically proven that you did plagiarize other people's work, you might as well try to find a new field of work. Flipping burgers would probably be all you could do from that point forward, because nobody's ever going to trust anything you say ever again. So a pretty shitty situation. So yeah, pretty shitty situation for Joseph Lombard to have to deal with. So that kind of sucks. But now that all of that has been talked about, I'm rearing up, because it is it's time to roast some assholes from this past week, both in the NASCAR media and the NASCAR fan base itself. It's time for the first edition of 2020 of Dumbass of the Week. Oh boy, there are a lot of dumbasses to talk about this week, but the start of this whole firestorm between NASCAR beat reporters and NASCAR YouTubers is basically an asshole by the name of Jim Utter, who, after that DeBella question I was talking about, was basically like, what the hell is going on in the media center? And he basically replied on Twitter that he said some whack job asked some ridiculous question to Joey Logano, probably a barstool thing. To my knowledge, Barstool Sports didn't have anything to do with this. I mean, why would you make such a ridiculous assumption like that? I mean, assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. You know that, right? You know, and then one guy replied, Barstool Sports and Rubbin is Racing, which is Barstool Racing, bring a lot into the sport. I wouldn't be name dropping them in a negative way. Be professional. And Jim Utter's response is, yawn. This is coming from someone who has been verified on Twitter and is a NASCAR beat reporter. And yet this is how he acts. Like a giant douchebag. You know? And as if that bullshit wasn't enough, a guy by the name of John Haverland, who I've had a lot of negative things to say about this guy. I think he's New Mexico's New Mexico sports writer. He basically writes this gem of a tweet. False Newman injury reports. A wannabe Stephen A. bashes NASCAR after crash. YouTubers without journalistic integrity procure media credentials. One of them asks Logano a troll question. One reporter speculated it was from Barstool. Barstool then verbally attacks two reporters. Ugh. Yeah, John, like you're in any fucking position to be talking, you hack. You know? First of all, wannabe Stephen A. I mean, where the fuck does your train end, dude? Like, you're supposed to be a so-called journalist, yet you act like a total fucking Neanderthal. And then you say, YouTubers without journalistic integrity. Bitch, they have more integrity than your dumbass ever will. I might not agree with them sometimes, but you know what? They actually, pay attention to what goes on in the fucking races. And, combine that with a little bit of common sense, they can, they make content that is a lot more interesting and draws a lot more eyes than your shit ever will. So, all this bullshit by these NASCAR beat reporters, all this, outrage, over YouTubers, procuring media credentials. You motherfuckers need to realize that times are changing. How people consume media is different now. People are not going to really take the time anymore to read like 2-page articles and all that shit. How they consume media is a lot different in 2020 than it was even 5 years ago. And here's a newsflash for you. You don't need $100,000 pieces of paper, to be able to be considered, someone who covers the sport. And you don't need a fucking a journalist's degree, to be able to do what, guys like Eric E. Stepp and Joseph Lombard and Darian Gilliam, Black Flags Matter. I mean, they've been able to, start a career, covering the sport in their own right. And these guys, with these journalistic degrees, they can't, they don't have that, they never got that opportunity. And honestly, I think that's what it all comes down to. Jealousy. These motherfuckers are jealous as fuck that these YouTubers are getting these big opportunities to, procure media credentials, and these guys are basically being, pushed to the side. And they are jealous. I can smell the jealousy from here. And quite frankly, it's fucking ridiculous. Hey, it's not their fault you can't make good content. It's not their fault that you don't have journalistic integrity. So, seriously, to John Haverland and to Jim Utter and all these other beat reporters that have a stick up their ass, come off the bullshit. I mean, this is the type of shit that destroys your credibility. I mean, Jim Utter, when he sent those two tweets that I was talking about earlier, I mean, he got absolutely destroyed by people on Twitter. And it's like, well, Good job destroying whatever credibility you had, Jim. Have fun flipping burgers at the local McDonald's, if you can even get hired doing that. You know, and then there are these two dumb motherfuckers who were attacking Joseph Lombard over the goddamn Motor Racing Insider shit. And honestly, it smells of jealousy in and of itself, because these two seem to like stalking him, you know, basically trying to tear him down whenever they got a chance to. Kevin McCormick Jr., who is a BTN student youth sports commentator. Gee, you know, someone who's going to college to get a journalistic degree. Where have we heard that? You know, he was basically, you know, talking shit to Joseph Lombard, and he was spewing, and when he was, you know, talking shit to him, he was saying, "I'm just saying facts, man." No, you're stating your opinion, dumbass. You need to learn the difference between an opinion and facts, you dumb shit. And this is coming from someone who is a sports commentator. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. And then there's another guy by the name of Octane93 who seems to make it a point to, you know, stalk Joseph Lombard and basically try to tear him down every chance he gets. And then when the whole Motor Racing Insider shit happened, he basically decided, oh, I'm just going to tear your ass down. And this is coming from someone who says he's a 31-year-old streamer and he's married with 2 cats. I feel bad for your wife, dude, to put up with your stupid fucking bullshit. Like, just to give you an idea, you know, Joseph Lombard put a post about, you know, how he had a great time at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and his response was, "What? No more Motor Racing LLC affiliation, Motor Racing Insider, but things were going so well. I especially enjoyed the original articles and great on-location coverage." To which I told him, grow up and stop acting like a man-child. And apparently he has a Twitch account, and he has like something like 300 followers on his Twitch account, which, when you compare it to Joseph Lombard, who has 60,000 subscribers, again, it all comes down to one thing. They are jealous. Jealous as fuck that guys like Joseph Lombard and Eric Estep basically made NASCAR YouTube channels, and they've been able to basically turn them into a career. I mean, it was something that they did for fun on the side, and it's something that's now beginning to blossom into a real life career. And these guys are fucking jealous. They can't stand it to save their life. And it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. The pettiness of these motherfuckers is just... I mean, I literally want to reach through the goddamn computer screen and bitch slap every one of them. Knock some common fucking sense into these people. I mean, the way these people are acting and, you know, speaking, you know, sending out these bullshit tweets, it's fucking ludicrous. It's fucking nonsense is what it is. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the NASCAR fan base has been acting like total fucking tard monkeys. I remember after the Daytona 500 happened, after Ryan Newman's crash happened, there was a couple of people who were like, they need to, they need to end the Daytona 500, as in they need to stop hosting the Daytona 500. The knee-jerk reaction bullshit is getting old, people. If you honestly think they're going to shut down the Daytona 500 over a crash that didn't even result in a fatality, then you're out of your fucking gourd. Okay, let me give you a perfect example. Remember June 1955, the Le Mans disaster? Yeah, over 80 people were killed in that crash. And that crash nearly ended auto racing as a whole. And I'm talking about all over the world. But you know what? They managed to slog through the shit, and it's still alive and well today. So if you honestly think they're going to cancel the Daytona 500 over a crash that didn't even result in someone getting killed, you got another thing coming, sunshine. And then, extending to this week after California, after they announced that they were switching from the 5 lugs to the 1 lug nut. There are a lot of people that are just, they are hooking that fucking salt into an IV and just sticking it right in their arm. You know, there are some people like, oh my god, this is going to ruin stock car racing. And I'm just sitting here like, do you people seriously find shit to bitch about just to the sake of bitching about it? Like, are you fucking serious? You're seriously going to complain about lug nuts? Fake outrage. These people are complaining, you know, they're basically trying to get attention, is what it seems like to me. And it's just like, what's the fucking point? I mean, if you don't like it, then that's fine. But I mean, saying that, oh, it's going to ruin stock car racing, shut the fuck up. Stop being over dramatic bitch faces. I mean, this is just fucking nonsense. It's nonsense! And my friends wonder why I shit on the NASCAR fan base so much. Just look at what these people do on the social media. And they wonder, and they honestly wonder why people look down on them with such contempt. Just look at your actions. You know, the way you react to certain things, the way you react on social media. How you just overreact to the dumbest shit. I mean, NASCAR can't win in this situation. I mean, I think they're, honestly, my personal opinion, I think they're making a good choice going from 5 lugs to just 1. It doesn't really change anything. But, you know, these people, they feel the need to be outraged just to be outraged. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I am sick and fucking tired of this nonsensical bullshit. I mean, this shit has been going on for years and years, and I am sick to death of it. Sick to fucking death of it. This is why I've always said that the NASCAR fan base is the most toxic fan base in all of sports. I mean, just to put it into perspective, I think that the Clemson Tigers fan base, the Alabama Crimson Tide fan base, and even though I'm a fan of them myself, the Ohio State Buckeyes fan base, those 3 are the most obnoxious fan bases in all of college football. And even if you put them all together, it doesn't even come close to the toxicity that the NASCAR fan base has. It is fucking ridiculous. And what happened over this past week pretty much exemplifies that fact. That's why I don't consider myself a NASCAR fan, because then I would be lumped in with all of them, you know, fucking crazy bastards. So I'm not exactly sure how to categorize myself. I mean, I enjoy NASCAR. You know, I love doing reviews on it, obviously. But I'm not sure how I could categorize myself. A NASCAR observer, enthusiast. I don't know what the correct label would be, honestly. But one thing's for sure, I absolutely refuse to associate myself with this fan base, because I do not want to be lumped in with these fucks. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, there are certain things about NASCAR that I don't like. But, you know, I actually give my reasons why I don't like it and why it should be, you know, point A, point B, you know, that shit. Some of these people just get mad just for the sake of being mad. And in this case, I mean, changing the number of lug nuts, to me, is not a good enough reason to just completely lose your shit. And in fact, personally, I think it's a tremendous idea, because it eliminates the lug nut penalties. And if they have even one of the, if they have that lug nut loose, guess what? They're losing that tire. It's coming off the car. And NASCAR doesn't have to worry about penalizing the team for it, because physics will take care of that for them. So there's that. But yeah, NASCAR beat reporters and the NASCAR fan base of the last week. Those are my dumbasses of the week. And what a shit-tastic week it was. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this review proper. Alright, so here we go. 2020 Auto Club 400 race review. Let's get into it. Stages 1 and 2, 60 laps. Stage 3, 80 laps. Before the start of this race, Jimmie Johnson was in front of the 5 white salute to the fans, considering that this was his final race at his home track. And there's a pretty crazy stat line that he accomplished at the end of this race that I don't think has been accomplished by any driver anywhere else. I mean, it is absolutely insane. We'll get to that when we get to it, though. But Clint Bowyer starts from the pole. He leads lap 1, but I mean, that's pretty much the highlight of his day. He just did absolutely nothing with this pole position. DiBenedetto goes up to 4th by Alex Bowman. Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman start fighting for 3rd a little bit later on, though. Bowman gets by Johnson for 2nd. Bowyer blocks Bowman as he goes for the lead, which allows Kurt Busch and Johnson to go by. Bowman recovers to 3rd and then gets back up to 2nd. Truex up to 14th after starting last on lap 9. We have 3 wide for the lead between Bowyer, Bowman, and Johnson. And we have our first pure lead change of the day by Alex Bowman on lap number 11. Ryan Blaney goes up to 3rd on lap 15. Himself and William Byron were in the Kobe Bryant tribute colors. Of course, Kobe Bryant, who passed away, I think, like a month ago in a helicopter crash, him and his daughter and 7 others. It was a pretty traumatic event, to say the least. So I thought it was pretty cool that Ryan Blaney and William Byron were allowed to run his colors. So I thought that was pretty cool. Blaney gets up to 2nd by Johnson. Truex kicks off green flag pit stops on lap 27. Bowman pits from the lead on lap 30. Kyle Larson gets helped into the wall by Denny Hamlin, so he had to come to pit road to get that repaired. Bowman cycles back with the lead. Almirola gets by Matt DiBenedetto for 4th. Kurt Busch by DiBenedetto for 5th. Elliott starts reporting a possible tire problem, but he hangs on to the finish. And Alex Bowman wins stage number 1. The stage started off hot but cooled off rather quickly, which was pretty much the theme of this race. There was a lot of good racing at the start of each green flag run, but by the time we got to the end, it was pretty dull, to say the least. So everyone comes in for service. Kurt Busch was technically the first off pit road, but he actually missed his pit stall, so he had to come back in. Jimmie Johnson was the first off with 4 fresh tires, much to the delight of his hometown crowd. So stage number 2, Johnson leads the start of stage 2. 5 wide down the front stretch, which, you know, is typical for a restart at California at Auto Club. Blaney blows by the 41 into turn 1 and takes the lead. Our second pure lead change on lap 69. Then we have 3 wide for the lead between Blaney, Bowman, and Johnson. Johnson regains the lead. Our third pure lead change on lap 71, but then Ryan Blaney gets back underneath them, hits a slingshot pass on him to regain the lead for our fourth pure lead change on lap 72. Alex Bowman gets by Logano for third. Christopher Bell had a bolt go through his radiator and pretty much killed his engine, and that took him out of the race. Truex gets by Elliott for fifth. Bowman by Johnson for second. Truex gets by Logano for fourth. Green flag pit stops begin en masse on lap 90. Blaney pits from the lead on lap 92, but then we have our one and only caution on lap 93 when Clint Bowyer loses his left front tire in turns 1 and 2. They're reporting that because tire pressures were pretty low, he basically rolled the tire off the rim. And so his day goes from bad to worse. But this was the only caution of the day, so pretty much clean and green throughout this entire race, and no major incidents. Well, which, I personally like. Keep the race going, even if it's not that good. So Blaney leads on the restart. Byron gets by Logano for third. We have a lot of shuffling in the top 10, just back and forth, back and forth. Kez gets by Truex for fourth, and Ryan Blaney wins stage number 2. Pretty solid. Everyone comes in for service, and Johnson once again wins the race off pit road. So for the second straight stage, Johnson leads the restart. Bowman takes the lead going into turn number 1, so no pure lead change on this case, although he didn't actually get back to the line with the lead. And we had 4 wide for the lead down the front stretch, which was pretty crazy. Blaney led the lap, but Bowman challenges him once again and gets the lead once again for our 5th pure lead change on lap 128. And then Martin Truex Jr. gets up to the lead for the first time after starting last. So that was our 6th pure lead change on lap 129. So lots of racing at the front at this point. That's pretty awesome. Bowman gets back underneath of Truex for the race lead for our 7th pure lead change on lap 133. Hamlin smacks the wall a little bit going into turn 2, but is able to keep it going. Elliott coming back towards the front at this point. Bowman leads by 3.6 seconds with 50 laps to go. Pit stops begin with 41 laps to go. Bowman pits from the lead with 39 to go. Truex's tire changer suffered a cramp in his arm, so that's why he was having trouble with the tire change, and that's because his one of his tire changers, the rear tire changer, was having a cramp. Not exactly a good time to have a cramp, I'll tell you that much. Bowman cycles back with the race lead. Battle for fourth between Kurt Busch, Johnson, and Elliott was pretty good. There was a lot of battling at the bottom half of the top 10, but Bowman pretty much pulled away to about a 9-second lead. It actually got up to a little over 10 seconds. And then Blaney has to pit with 3 laps to go with a possible tire issue, which actually leaves Kyle Busch in 2nd position. And Alex Bowman wins the Auto Club 400 by 9 seconds over the Busch brothers. Absolutely dominating victory by Alex Bowman. His 2nd career win, and a much needed win, considering that he is in a contract year with Hendrick Motorsports. So if he is to stay with that 88 car, he's got to start producing. But from the looks of it, it looks like Hendrick Motorsports has found its groove once again, because all 4 of their cars have been looking good so far early on in this season. But let's take a look at the race results and the point standings after 3 races. Alright, so here are the race results. Alex Bowman, of course, with the win, led 110 of the race's 200 laps after starting 3rd. Earned 59 total points, 6 playoff points. Kyle Busch comes home in 2nd. Kurt Busch, his older brother, comes home 3rd. Chase Elliott in 4th. Brad Keselowski in the 5th position. Denny Hamlin in 6th. Jimmy Johnson 7th in his final race. And here's that stat that I was talking about. In all of his races at Auto Club Speedway from 2002 to 2020, he finished on the lead lap in every single race. 5,906 total laps. And he finished on the lead lap in every single race. Completed every single lap he could have at Auto Club Speedway. That is insane. I don't think that's a stat that anybody else can even claim at any track ever. That's ridiculous. Eric Almirola comes home in the 8th position, Kevin Harvick in 9th, and Eric Jones rounds out the top 10. Which leads us to the point standings after 3 races, and quite the interesting little lineup after 3 events, even though it is still early in the season. So, point standings. Ryan Blaney, despite only having one top 10 and, having his troubles at, of course, getting caught out at the end of the Las Vegas race and having a tire issue at the end of Auto Club, because of the fact that he's been finishing high at the end of stages, he's been earning a lot of points, so he remains the point leader. Joey Logano is second in points, 11 back. Alex Bowen, with his win, moves up to third. Kevin Harvick is fourth. Jimmy Johnson is fifth in points. So it looks like that 48 has gotten its mojo back. Chase Elliott is sixth. Denny Hamlin seventh. Matt DiBenedetto in the Wood Brothers number 21 is eighth. Kyle Larson ninth. Eric Almirola in the 10th position. And then we have Chris Buescher in the 17 car, currently 11th in points. Brad Keselowski 12th. Martin Truex Jr. 13th. Austin Dillon 14th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 15th. Clint Bowyer 16th. That's your top 16 right now. And then Bubba Wallace in 17th. And then you have Eric Jones and Kyle Busch 18th and 19th. Man, this is the lowest that we've seen Kyle Busch in the points in a while. And he's the defending champion. But again, we're just 3 races in. And then William Byron rounds out the top 20. And the next race for these guys is at Phoenix. Enjoy. So, as for my final rating for the Auto Club 400, honestly, this is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you could probably split this right down the middle. With the fact that, the beginning of each green flag run actually had some great racing, but then once everybody kind of got spread out, it was just really dull. So, I would start with a 5 out of 10 if that was just the case. But let me tell you something, that final run in stage 3 after the final round of pit stops, Alex Bowman just basically pulled away and the race for the lead was non-existent. The final run of the race was boring as fuck. So it loses a point in that regard. However, it will gain a half a point back because we only had one caution flag the entire race. I don't count the stage cautions as usual. So only one caution all day and no major incidents. That's a thumbs up in my book. So it gains a half a point back. So my final rating for the Auto Club 400 will be a 4.5 out of 10. It wasn't a good race, but it wasn't trash either. It was a slightly below average race. And for Auto Club, that's not bad. Let's just be honest. It's not bad. Of course, then there's Phoenix next week. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. Hopefully, it won't be like the race in November, because that race was god-awful. And the biggest fear in this race is if this race is fucking terrible, this may be what we have looking forward to. This may be what we have to look forward to for the season finale in November. Which sucks, because Phoenix used to be such a good track, but they kept changing the layout, doing this and doing that. And they basically tried to fix something that wasn't broken in the first place. And now it is broken. The racing there has been terrible the last couple of years. I'm hoping it changes this time around. I really do. Because I want to see good racing at Phoenix again. So that's my take on it. But that's pretty much going to do it for this week. Hopefully this week won't have anything in the way of embarrassment bullshit for NASCAR, because I get so sick and tired of having to cover that shit. I just, let's have some positivity in this, you know what I mean? Because we're only 3 races in, and this season is already going down the fucking shitter in terms of, NASCAR media and all that shit. So hopefully, I'm hoping to God this Phoenix race is good. I really am. Because I want to give it a good rating. I want to have a positive review. But we'll have to wait and see. But thank you very much for watching. And until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Bye. You better like and subscribe or face the consequences.
You have been warned.